Now that I've gotten Sierra's feet wet with a few other games, I figured it was time to introduce her to the game series that revolutionized the adventure genre.
I'm going on an adventure!
I'm a little ashamed to say this, but I didn't play the Legend of Zelda series growing up.
That is blasphemous! That is blasphemous! How dare you? How dare you say such a thing? That is insanity!
I know. I shouldn't even consider myself a gamer after such blasphemy. But as a kid, picking out video games, I mainly focused on what was on the case of the video game or the title, and not so much how good the game was. Which is why I would play games like Nicktoons Unite, which had all my favorite Nicktoons characters on the cover, or Beetle Adventure Racing, which had a sweet Volkswagen Bug on the front cover, over some video game case that just had a title on it. Little kid me cared more about Danny Phantom kicking Ghost's butt over what an Aquafina was and why I could tell the time. Well, that is all to say that after my brother and I went in on buying a Switch together, and the only game that released at launch besides 1-2 Switch and Just Dance 2017 was The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, I had become a massive Legend of Zelda fan ever since. The months and weeks leading up to the game's release, I spent not caring at all about Breath of the Wild and how this was going to be such a massive release. It wasn't until it came out and I started watching people stream the game that I realized that I needed to own that game immediately.
I don't need it. I don't need it. I definitely don't need it. I 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 need it!
The week I got it, my brother and I went to Florida to spend a week with my grandparents, and there was nothing that could take me away from that game.
You played video games all day.
Me? No, I've been playing sports.
Nintendo had created an open-world adventure game that I have never experienced before. It was a game designed so perfectly that I didn't realize they had predicted every outcome or idea that I could have had about playing the game. I would see an enemy's camp and notice a boulder sitting just so on the edge of a cliff. My first thought is to roll that off the edge and smash the enemies to dust.
Crush your enemies! Grind their bones into dirt! Make them regret they were ever born!
Oh, sick!
But if I spent more time looking around, I would have noticed explosive barrels sitting very close to their campfire, and one shot from a fire arrow could have blown up the whole camp. Nintendo meticulously designed the game to be as freeing and open world as possible. In addition, the towers in the distance tempted me to continue exploring every inch of this world. I would spend hours noticing something in the distance, then climbing up to a high point to get a better view, or jumping off so I can glide my way to it. I've never played a video game designed in such a way, and it's safe to say that Breath of the Wild is my favorite game of all time. So the question of this series is not, what game do I love the most? It's, what game will your girl play? Sierra, unlike myself, actually has experience with the Zelda series. She used to sit and watch her older brother play Ocarina of Time for hours on end. However, she was more of a watcher and had no intentions of actually playing the game. I'm so excited to get her to play this game because the last time I introduced this game to someone, it was my college roommate, and he clocked in about 100 hours in like a month or so. I jump at the chance to introduce this game to anyone I can. I was a little disappointed to find that Sierra wasn't as blown away with the game as I was when I first played it. However, I wasn't ready to give up. I knew once she started to explore the Great Plateau, she was going to fall in love with this game. But our room started to look like this.
Oh my God. Chloe, we're going to Disneyland!
There was hope to start because she loved the fact that she could totally avoid enemies if she wanted to. Something lacking in another RPG, also made by Nintendo, that is not allowed to be played around her anymore. Within the first hour, she really enjoyed the vast freedom that was given to her, but she felt that the freedom was wasted on her. She said that she's the type of player that will focus on the story missions, and that's it, so all the extra stuff around isn't being fully appreciated by her. Although that was disappointing to hear, I knew that she enjoyed puzzles, and was hoping that the shrines would scratch that puzzling itch. As she went through each shrine on the Great Plateau, she wasn't really impressed with the puzzles they offered. Interestingly, that is a complaint I've heard from many Zelda fans that have played all the other games leading up to this one. They preferred the large dungeon style over the quick shrines. And as I found out quickly, Sierra wanted to make it very clear that she was a much bigger Zelda fan than I was.
You're not even a real Zelda fan.
Are you just gonna spend this whole time telling me that I'm not a real Zelda fan?
I think I'm more of a Zelda fan than you are. I have watched all of them. I haven't played... I played the one, but I haven't played any other ones, but I've watched them all.
I think I know more
Yeah.
than you do,
You never
genius.
get any American girls.
Speaking of a new mechanic, climbing was something that I thought totally changed the way the game was played. And Sierra agreed that it was cool, until she actually started doing it. As soon as she saw that she would have to climb something to get to an objective, a sense of dread washed over her, and she tried to find any other way possible around it. And she was still having a good time. She liked messing with the old man.
Well then, just help yourself to that torch there.
Why are you talking like that?
And now, may I ask, are you planning to use it? It's a secret.
And learning how fire worked.
I'm immune to fire.
You are not immune to fire.
Ah! Just kidding!
But the good times didn't last long. We didn't really run into a major problem until she was required to reach the shrine that gives you the ice power. To get to that shrine, you have to cook something that gives you immunity from the cold. Nintendo designed that section so that the player would walk past this enemy camp that had spicy peppers and a cooking pot, thinking that a player would experiment with the newfound ingredient and discover a new recipe granting cold immunity. What Nintendo didn't plan for was a player that avoided conflict at all costs. Because Sierra chose to ignore the enemy camp due to the overwhelming amount of enemies, she totally missed the spicy pepper discovery that was supposed to take place. Instead, she died over and over again trying to cross the small river that was between her and the shrine that she needed to get to. After multiple failed attempts, she decided to give up because it was too hard. I defeated the enemy camp and made the recipe so that she could make her way up the mountain. Although at this point, she was a second away from exploding from frustration.
Captain Magma! Get him angry and he's bound to erupt! Krakatawa!
She climbed the mountain because she was determined to get that paraglider. Sierra reached the 2-hour game time mark by the time she received the paraglider, and I asked her what her final opinion of the game was. Would she play it or not? She decided that she would absolutely play it again, but only if I was there to help with the hard parts. So although Breath of the Wild did not fully entrance her like I was expecting, I was happy to see that she didn't want to fully give up on the game. Fellas, it seems that Breath of the Wild is a game that you can introduce to your girl, but don't mansplain her way through the game, and be supportive as she learns how to do all the cool things the game has to offer, because I'm sure you didn't solve everything on the first try, and no one was watching you play. Thanks for watching this episode of Will Your Girl Play. Comment below what game we should do next, and subscribe to keep up with our videos.